Hello. Thank you for tuning in to this 2023 general election candidate forum for the mayor of the city of Olympia. This forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County in collaboration with Thurston Community Media. The League of Women Voters is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but instead always working on vital issues of concern to our members and the public to defend our democracy and to empower voters. I'm Karen Valenzuela with the League, and I'll be moderating this forum today. Carolyn Byerly will be our timer. Thank you, Carolyn. So Olympia is a non-charter code city that has operated under the council-manager form of government since 1982. The city has a separately elected mayor who also sits on the council with equal voting authority. The mayor sets the agenda for and presides over council meetings and official city ceremonies. The mayor also represents the city on the state, national, and international levels. As a member of the city council, the mayor has authority for making laws, adopting regulations and budgets, levying taxes, authorizing public improvements, providing for public health and safety, and approving board and commission appointments. So we have two candidates today, Dantae Payne and David Ross. And I should mention that David Ross is participating in this forum by Zoom. So we'll have him come in and answer questions in turn. Each candidate has an opportunity to respond to each question for 1 minute. And to begin, we'll call on the candidates in alphabetical order and then reverse so that each has a chance to respond first. So each candidate may also ask the other a question, and each will be able to give a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each of the questions, and please let me know if either of you need to have me repeat the question. Don't hesitate to ask. The timer will turn yellow when you have 15 seconds left, and it will turn red with a stop sign when you are done. The League stresses the importance of civility in our candidate forums, and we appreciate that both of these candidates have received and agreed to the ground rules for this forum and agreed to abide by them. So let's get started. We'll start first with you, Dantae. What do you believe makes you the most qualified candidate for this position?
Yes, I believe that I am the most qualified for this position for a few reasons. One being, that my time on council has very much prepared me to step into this role, just in terms of understanding how the city works as an organization, what are the top issues that are important to members of our community, and what are the issues that are also very important to the members of our council who represent the whole city at large. Also, I believe that I have a certain lived experience that I think, frankly, has been lacking in many municipal governments' leadership. And so I believe that that lived experience, based on the fact that I am someone who was not born in Olympia, who has spent time elsewhere, I believe that that helps really shape perspective and brings a different way of thinking to the mayor's seat. I will also say that yes, thank you.
David, same question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Please.
What makes you believe you're the most qualified candidate for this position?
I think that my qualifications to serve as mayor stem from my willingness to speak out, study, and get involved in issues that are of concern to Olympia citizens. Whether that's being a lifelong resident of Olympia and seeing how it has changed over the past several years and over the really pushing 50 years, as well as being involved in some of the issues that are most concerning to Olympians, having to do with our street community and our downtown and our problem with homelessness, addiction, and mental illness. I spent 10 years as a psychiatric social worker in Thurston County in Olympia, as well as spent 5 years as the county's homeless outreach case manager. And I think my willingness to look at the way we've been handling this issue or not handling this issue which is of concern to 87% of our citizens, is something that the current council has just simply been unwilling to face.
Thank you. And staying with you, David, the second question is, the city is considering raising its sales tax to fund basic transportation project. What is your opinion regarding the use of a regressive sales tax to fill gaps in funding for basic city services?
I think that's a double-edged sword. I think we definitely need to fund gaps in transportation and public services. I think that we have to support kind of our plan to move Olympia to a more urban density, a smaller carbon footprint, a more environmentally sustainable Olympia. On the other hand, my understanding is that our current shortfalls and inability to do basic maintenance and fill potholes. I had a very prolific cyclist tell me that they couldn't believe how bad Olympia's roads were getting, and the current mayor said that it's because we've had to take so much money out of the public works budget to put towards other things that are overwhelming the city, namely homelessness. And so I think if we continue to struggle running from crisis to crisis, bottom line answer, I do support doing a sales tax to improve maintenance and transportation, but I think we need to get our house in order.
Thank you. Dantae, do you need me to repeat the question?
I do not. Thank you. I believe that first, to answer this question, we have to understand the fact that local government is extremely constrained with its ability to provide basic services to the city, in addition to all of these other systemic issues like homelessness that we've recently taken on in recent years, and fund all of these things adequately. And so that means that we do need to look at a sales tax increase. Unfortunately, it's of a regressive nature because that is how the state of Washington's tax system is. However, we are currently at 9.5%. In our sales tax, and so that would bump us up to 9.6. And if we want to be able to fund sidewalks across the city, it's going to be extremely important that we do that so that folks can get around our community, and we can also step up on ADA requirements as well.
Thank you. Third question, we'll start with you, Dantae. In acknowledgement of the significance of the culture of Native Americans in this area, Olympia recently renamed Priest Point Park to Squaxin Park. As mayor, how would you propose to further include tribal leadership in decisions of mutual interest?
Yes, thank you for this question. This is a great question. I believe that the city of Olympia has done a wonderful job at really making sure that we are having a strong government-to-government relationship with the Squaxin Island tribe, who are the original inhabitants and stewards of these lands. And Chairman Peters has done a wonderful job, as well as Mayor Selby, with facilitating and leading that government-to-government relationship. I intend to do so as mayor as well. I believe that we share a lot of things in common. For example, our perspectives on the Deschutes Estuary is something where there has been a very strong agreement and partnership with the Squaxin Island tribe. And so I'll continue building off of that by having our annual meetings and also including the Squaxin Island tribe in our comprehensive planning process that we are doing for the next 20 years of the city.
David, do you need me to repeat the question?
No. I think, let me start my timer here since I can't see yours. I think one of the things that we definitely need to do is work hand in hand with the Squaxin in terms of what we do in planning for the next, not just the next 20 years, which we'll be doing in the next year and a half with our 20-year plan update, but also with looking at how Olympia is going to respond to sea level rise, how Olympia is going to respond to the changing nature of Capitol Lake and the possible removal of the Fifth Avenue Dam, being in partnership in the Deschutes watershed group that's just been formed. I think that we really can build a better bridge for the next 20 to 50 years in terms of what we do to not just rename things and sort of give declarations, but really appreciate the tribe's stewardship and leadership in those areas.
Thank you. And David, we'll start with you for the fourth question. How well do you think Olympia is doing in addressing racial equity in the city, in city government, that is, and what further changes, if any, would you like to see?
I think Olympia is doing a good job in terms of diversification. What I mean by that is sometimes we get people talking about Olympia being very monolithic, very not very diverse, and I would agree that that may be the case. That may have been the case in the past. Although one thing that I can attest to is that Olympia has become a dramatically more diverse community in just the short time that I've lived here as a citizen, as a resident. And people are coming to Olympia. People are working for the city, for the county, for the state, because Olympia is a welcoming and supportive community that really is a low judgment community and welcomes people of all different backgrounds. And I think that the way that we could really enhance that would be if we could get ourselves on the same path, a leader that could bring us to the sorry, Karen, I can't see you. A leader that can bring us to the path of, if we can not point fingers at each other and make declarations against Olympia not being this or being that, but being welcoming and inclusive the way we've been over the last 50 years.
How about you, Dantae? Do you need me to repeat the question?
I do not, thank you. So I believe the city has certainly taken quite a few steps in this space, thankfully. We have seen our city government really step up to the plate and recognize that systemic racism is an issue that not only permeates our own city government, but really all levels of government, and frankly, it's an issue for our country. And we have recognized that as a city. So we have done things like diversify our boards and commissions, for example, and bring more people with different perspectives and lived experiences to serve the city in that capacity. We've also have done things like start a reimagining public safety process, which is a community-led process on public safety and policing and our community mental health response, for example. And so having the perspectives of people of color helping shape those policies is extremely important.
Thank you. Final question, final and fifth question, Dantae. A recent poll conducted for the city showed most residents are deeply dissatisfied with the city's handling of homelessness. What should the city be doing to address this problem?
Yes, I understand that many people are frustrated in our community on the issue of homelessness, and understandably so. It's our most visible issue that we have. However, what I will say is that it is a massively systemic issue that a very small municipal government is taking on. And for that, I would say, I believe that, frankly, the city of Olympia deserves to be recognized for the work it has been doing, so to speak. I like to think of it in many ways as sort of like we have a tourniquet on this issue just to control the bleeding. And so we have done a number of things, developing more affordable housing, opening tiny home villages, and more permanent supportive housing. But it is something that I understand the frustration, but we are making progress very rapidly lately. And so I think as mayor, I'll continue to lead that fight against homelessness.
Thank you. David, do you need me to repeat the question?
Please.
A recent poll conducted for the city showed most residents are deeply dissatisfied with the city's handling of homelessness. What should the city be doing to address this problem?
I believe the statistic was 87% of Olympia residents are dissatisfied. And I think what the city needs to do, what the city can do, is do a little bit of enforcement, specifically around dismantling encampments. And while the city's taking credit for dismantling encampments near Hobby Lobby or Wheeler Street, or even a while ago around Capitol Lake. At the end of the day, when the city dismantles encampments and then allows new encampments to start, like is starting around Capitol Lake again, there are folks camping there, and like is starting on Henderson and Plum Street near the hotels. To me, that is absolutely ideological entrenchment, and it's really unacceptable. It's a malfeasance of public safety, and it's not an unsolvable problem. What we see out on the streets are the treatment resistance folks. The vast majority of homelessness is short, sheltered, and singular. What we're doing is enabling the treatment resistant population that's overwhelming our city.
Thank you. And now finally, we'll give each of the candidates the opportunity to ask the other a question. And David, we'll start with you. What question would you like to ask Dantae?
I'd like to ask Dantae if you support doing whatever we can, the city of Olympia by that, whatever we can to get armed and uniformed Olympia police officers back in Olympia schools.
Well, this is a very complicated issue. Obviously, we are actually in the middle of having to make a decision in this regard. I will say I believe that obviously, given what has recently happened in our schools in the city, that obviously we need some type of intervention. Whether or not that looks like school resource officers is something that I am open to, but I am not necessarily committed to. And I say that because, as I said, this is happening in real time, and I have a lot of concerns. For example, the incidents that did recently occur in our schools happened, they were de-escalated without harm, and no one got hurt. So I do have concerns about putting armed officers back in our schools, as I'm not seeing the connection necessarily in a way that would guarantee the safety of our students just because there's an armed officer. But I am open to the idea because I believe community policing is also important, and that's what school resource officers have to offer. Sure. So, David, given our mayor's limited authority and your priority to ban encampments, which is an action the City Council does not support at this time, as mayor, how will you work across different perspectives on the issues to be an effective mayor when your council disagrees with you?
Thanks, Dantae. I think the way that I look at that is that one seat among seven could just be a squeaky wheel, could be an angry Khrushchev table pounder, but one seat among seven may also be collaborative and able to inform and educate. My understanding is that a lot of Olympia's drastic change in mismanaging homelessness, addiction, and mental illness overwhelming our streets came about because of a radical activist that got on the council and really swayed a lot of the council to a perspective and a policy that is clearly not working, and to simply not call it what it is. The cognitive dissonance is deafening. My goal would be to have that similar type of effect on the council, to say, look, it's not draconian, it's not uncompassionate, it's simply doing what works is what we need to do. And so that would be my goal in working with the city council, is collaborating, educating, and maybe coming to a common ground.
Thank you, David. Your time is up. Now we'll have each of the candidates end with their 1-minute closing statement. David, let's start with you.
I'm really running because I think a majority of Olympians love our city and support our city council and our police and fire and city employees, but they're very disappointed at what they see in their day-to-day lives. And their voices have not been heard, have not been listened to, have not been really responded to. And I think in terms of really dealing with encampments and seeing if we can make our city an encampment-free community over time and compassionately, if we can improve public safety so that seniors, children, women, anybody feels safe going anywhere in our city anytime. And then moving on to really recovering Olympia so that we're not running from crisis to crisis, and we're able to look at things like sea level rise and economic development and environmental sustainability. But right now we're in this constant crisis mode. And if we're going to be in this constant crisis mode, I would like to make some of these issues urgent once again.
Thank you, David. Dantae.
So if you care about having more affordable housing development in our community, as you have seen, if you care about addressing our community health and public safety issues, which we have been doing, but I will continue to do as mayor, and if you care about economic opportunity for not only for yourself, but for your household and for our community, then I really encourage you to take a look at my candidacy and see what I have said about all of those issues. I believe that the next city's mayor needs to be somebody who understands the complexity of all of these issues and also takes a humane approach to their leadership. We cannot continue to go down the path of demonizing those who are already at their lowest points, particularly those experiencing homelessness, mental health, and substance abuse issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both Dantae Payne and David Ross for joining us once again for this candidates forum. I neglected to congratulate you both on making it through the primary. We thank our partner TC Media for producing and airing this forum. We're indebted to TC Media for years of making these forums happen and helping to educate voters. We encourage our viewers to be voters in the upcoming election on November 7th because every vote counts. Ballots will be mailed out to everyone around October 18th, and you can register to vote right up until Election Day, which is November 7th, by which time you must return your ballot either to one of the many ballot boxes around our community, including at our public libraries, or in the mail, postage free. Thank you again for joining us for this Candidates Forum.